بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. So we'll start today inshallah the third class for Tajdeed al-Iman, rebuilding or reconstructing our faith. And last week we stopped with some of the athar, the narrations of the Salaf, and how much importance they gave to protecting their faith and trying to increase in Iman. And today we'll start with the asbab al-ziyadati iman, reasons for strengthening or increasing the faith. Some different reasons. Now this book, as he said before, is short, so he doesn't mention all of the reasons. But as Shaykh Abdul Razak Hafidhullah says, "Ushiru ila ahammiha ala wajh al-ikhtisar." I'll point out the most important reasons, the most important things that help strengthen a person's iman. He says in a short, summarized way, bil-ikhtisar wal-ijaz. So, the first thing, he says, ta'allum al-ilm al-shar'i, learning Islamic knowledge, al-ilm al-shar'i. And that's not to say you can't learn something that's not Islamic, but from the most important things that will increase a person's iman, increase a person's faith, is learning the deen, learning the religion. فَالْعِلْمِ بِالْعِلْمِ النَّافِعِ, which is, the knowledge of the deen starts where? The kitab. Ilm al-kitab wa sunnah. Knowledge of the Quran and knowledge of the sunnah. يزيد الإيمان حتى يتمكن في القلب. It increases a person's faith until it strengthens the heart. وأبواب العلم الشرعي كثيرة جدا. Now it's not restricted to only learning Quran, but from the most important things that help increase a person's faith is knowledge of the Quran, knowing what Allah said in the Quran, knowing the promises that Allah promised us in the Quran, knowing the threats that Allah threatened us with in the Quran, the threats of the hellfire, right? The promises of the paradise. Same thing found in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The reward for the person who does this, the punishment for the person who does that, the reward for doing this. All of these things increase a person in Iman. But he said, وَأَوَّلُ مَا يَدْخُلُ فِي ذَلِكَ قِرَاءَةُ الْقُرْآنِ الْكَرِيمِ وَتَدَبُّرُهُ. From the first things that enter into that section of learning knowledge is reading the Quran, qira'atul Quran, وَتَدَبُّرُهُ, and reflecting and pondering over the meanings of the ayat. What is meant from the ayat, not just reading through it and not understanding what the ayat means. Even not to say you might understand what it means in English, but what's the maqsood behind it? What is the intent behind the ayat? Why was the ayat revealed? When was it revealed? Was it talking about somebody specific at the time? All of those things increase a person in their iman, increases a person's faith. As the more knowledge that you get, the more, let's say, the easier things are as far as Islamically, because you know your limits. You know what you can do and what you can't do, right? He says, فَإِنَّ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ مِنْ أَعْظَمِ. The Quran is from the greatest things that will increase a person's faith. As Allah said, كَمَا قَالَ تَعَالَى وَإِذَا مَا أُنزِلَتْ صُورَةٌ فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَقُولُ أَيُّكُمْ زَادَتْهُ هَذِهِ إِيمَانًا. And this is in Surah Al-Baqarah. I'm sorry, Surah Al-Tawbah. Surah Al-Tawbah. Ayah 124. And when the ayah is revealed, and some of them from the hypocrites, some of the people from the hypocrites will say, which one of you has increased in faith? The hypocrites will ask. Which one of you has this Quran that it increased you in your faith when you heard it? Allah said, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فَزَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا وَهُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ. As for those who believe, as for the believers, then it increased them in faith. It was an increasement in faith when they heard the ayat. And they were rejoicing. And this is in Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 124. That some of the hypocrites asked when they heard, which one of you that their faith has increased when they heard this? They said out to Allah. And then Allah said, as for the believers, because a person might argue, right, the argument of Iman decreasing or increasing. طيب. Allah said, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فَزَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا وَهُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ فَزَادَتْهُمْ رِجْسًا إِلَى رِجْسِهِمْ. As for those who have a sickness in their heart, when they heard the Quran, it increased them in rijs, doubt and shak. إِلَى رِجْسِهِمْ. It increased on the doubt that they already had. Allah said, وَمَاتُوا وَهُمْ كَافِرُونَ. And they died disbelieving. They died disbelieving, those people who increased in doubt. Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah, he said that this ayat here in Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 124, وَهَذِهِ الْآيَةِ مِنْ أَكْبَرِ الدَّلَائِلِ عَلَى أَنَّ الْإِيمَانِ يَزِيدُ وَيَنْقُصُ. He said this is from the greatest proofs that Iman increases and decreases. This ayah from the Quran, Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 124. So, the Quran, Qira'at al-Quran, and reflecting on the Quran increases a person's faith. Then he brings another ayah, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. In Surah Muhammad, where Allah says, don't they ponder and reflect over the Quran, or do they have locks on their hearts? Do they have locks on their hearts? Have their hearts been locked and covered so that they can't benefit from the reminder? أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. In that, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ, as it says in the tafsir, that's a command from Allah Jalla wa'ala, amiran. It's a command. The way it comes is a command to ponder and reflect over the Quran. And anytime Allah commands us with something, then we know it's, if Allah commands us with something, then that thing is what? Obligatory.
If you don't do it, then you're worthy of a punishment.
Obligatory, sorry. But that's not here. I'm not saying it's not obligatory to make the dabbar. But if Allah commands us with something, then that thing is worship. As Allah is not commanded us with something that's not obligatory or not from worship. If He commands us with something, then that thing is from khayr and it's from worship. If He praises something in the Quran, if He praises a sifa, a description, then we should try to take on that description as being praised. Here, the way it's worded, as Ibn Kathir said, amiran bit-tadabbur. That worship is not just the salat. Worship is, as Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, a real broad word that a lot of things enter into worship, under the word worship, outside of the things that we normally think about immediately, fasting, praying. There are a lot of things, everything that Allah is pleased with, anything that is pleasing to Allah, right? Whether it's a statement or action, you can see it or you can't see it, a person can see you doing it or not, comes under worship. If Allah praises something and is pleasing to Him, He commands you to do something, then of course it's pleasing to Him. He's not going to command us to do something that's going to gain the punishment or gain the anger of Allah. So if he commands us to do something with it, then we know that it is something that is pleasing to Allah Jalla wa Ala. Don't they ponder over the Quran? And that's in Surah Muhammad, ayah number 24. طيب, he says, فَتَدَبَّرُ الْقُرْآنِ وَتِلَاوَتُهُ وَتَأَمُّلْ فِي آيَاتِهِ يَزِيدُ فِي إِيمَانِ الْعَبْدِ. So reading the Quran, reciting the Quran, reflecting on the meanings, and that's the importance of tafsir, reflecting on the meanings of the Quran, all of these things will increase a person's faith. It's real simple, really. It's not really rocket science, it's simple. That the Quran is a book of guidance. It's a book that helps us to be stronger if we use it. And we become stronger Muslims if we use it. And the same is the opposite. If we leave it off, then we become weaker. If we leave off reading the Quran, then we become weaker. If we leave off reading the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then we become weaker. طيب, he says the second reason, and these are not all, as he said, these are just some from the most important. معرفة الأسماء الله الحسنى وصفاته العليا. Knowing Allah's names and attributes. Knowing Allah's names and attributes is a reason for a person's faith to increase. How is knowing Allah's names and attributes going to increase a person's faith, though?
It keeps you in remembrance of Allah, and it helps you to understand how to worship Allah. The more you get to know Him, then you know how to worship Him.
The more you get to know Him, then you know how to worship Him.
Having that awareness of His attributes, I believe, is help you. Like it's getting to know your Lord, basically.
Getting to know, of course, getting to know Allah is knowing Allah. Let's just say a person memorized the 99 names. How does a person use that throughout the day?
Well, a person knows that Allah is the all-seer, the all-hearer, the all-known, the ever-present.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you know what I mean, they would, abstain from the haram.
Right.
Well, for instance, if you
They should abstain from
If
haram.
you raise the whole lives, then you turn to Him when you need something.
Right.
When you don't understand something, you turn to Allah.
Right.
As opposed to turning somewhere else and
Hey.
ask.
An everyday practice. If a person knows Allah's Al-Hakim, the All-Wise, and something happens, they don't understand, they trust that, okay, Allah is Al-Hakim. I might not see the wisdom in it right now. It's out of my hands anyway. It's out of my control. Then they be patient with whatever the situation is. As you said, Allah's Al-Basir, the all-seeing. Allah sees everything. It should strike in a person's mind. They should bring the thought that Allah is watching me wherever I am. Like that. To use Him throughout the day. Right? It should increase a person in faith. Of course, they learn who their Lord is, and they learn all of these descriptions of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Right? It should increase a person's faith and increase a person's awareness of the greatness of Allah Jalla wa Ala. And Allah told us throughout the Quran that He has many names. قال تعالى قل ادعوا الله أو ادعوا الرحمن أيما تدعوا فله الأسماء الحسنى in Surah Al-Isra, ayah 110. Where Allah said, call on Allah by His name, Allah, or call Him Ar-Rahman. Call Him Ar-Rahman. Whichever one you call Him by, then Allah has beautiful names. And Allah said in another ayah in Surah Al-A'raf, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَدْعُوهُ بِهَا. Allah said in Surah Al-A'raf, ayah 180, Allah said He has beautiful names, call on Him by those names. And when we make dua, we say Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, right? Or whatever the situation may entail. A person may be asking for forgiveness, so they might want to say, Ya Al-Ghaffar, Ya Al-Ghafoor, right? A person may want to call on Allah based on what he's praying for, what she's praying for in that dua. وقال النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام said, إن لله 99 اسما 100 إلا واحدا فمن أحصاها دخل الجنة. That the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said that Allah has 99 names, meaning 100 minus 1. As it literally says, من أحصاها دخل الجنة. Whoever memorizes these names, they will enter paradise. They will enter paradise. The hifz of the name. There's a benefit memorizing the names. Huh? Memorizing the names without Iman. Huh? What'd you say?
No, somebody was saying that it was off air.
I don't know. Oh yeah, it looked like it's on there. Off with air. The hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari. The hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. Does it benefit memorizing the names when a person doesn't believe in Allah Jalla wa Ala? According to that hadith, anybody can just memorize the 99 names and go to paradise. Right?
But like you said, if you memorize the names, it'll keep you aware of His greatness.
Sahih.
In return.
What about the non-Muslim who may agree with us in the fact that there is a creator? And He, the creator, makes it rain. And the creator gives life and causes death. People that's not Muslim that believe this. And they agree with us in this. He gives life, He causes death. He's the all-wise, the most high. Right? They memorize these names. Huh? You understand? You gotta have shahada. Tayyib. At that point, the benefit, and that's from the things under the importance of the kalimat al-tawheed, the importance of the shahada, the importance of the statement la ilaha illallah. Something like that will be included under that actions, that if the shahada is invalidated, then the actions are invalidated. The importance of the shahada, that the actions could be invalidated based on the shahada being valid. If a person doesn't have shahada, and they know these names, they memorize all 99, right? Because you have some people who do. They call them the Orientalists, mustashrikun, that they know, they study Islam, they study, they memorize a hadith, and they memorize ayat, some of them memorize the Quran. They're not Muslims. They get the reward for that. These rewards are talking about the believers. These rewards are for the believers. That the one who memorizes these names, he says, فَمَعْرِفَةُ الْأَسْمَاءِ مَعْرِفَةُ أَسْمَاءِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى الْحُسْنَى. Not just knowing them, وَمَعْرِفَةُ مَعَانِيهَا, and knowing their meanings. ثُمَّ الْعَمَلُ بِهَا تَقْتَضِيهِ مِنْ أَعْظَمْ أَسْبَابِ زِيَادَةِ الْإِيمَانِ. Knowing the names, knowing what they mean, and acting on those names. As he said, if a person knows Allah is as-Samir, they know that Allah hears everything, then they're more careful. They're more careful about what they say out of their mouth. If they know Allah is all-seeing, they're more careful about what they do. Right? So? This is on the book. Yeah. I'm sorry. My bad. If they know those names, and that's using them, as he says, ثُمَّ الْعَمَلُ بِهَا, using them throughout the day. If we know these names, then we should try to use them in the area that they could be used for. As far as actions, we know Allah's watching us. Then that means we behave not just inside the masjid, wherever we are. For example, the Prophet ﷺ, he used to like to start things with the right side. Right? Like, for every person, even getting dressed, putting on shoes, as it says in the hadith, combing his hair. Never mind, I'll leave that one. Putting on shoes, combing his hair. When a person is in the bathroom, akramakallah, person is in the bathroom, the person's going to get dressed in the bathroom, right? Who's in the bathroom with a person generally? Generally. Huh? Just you, usually. Generally. Right? Generally. Tayyib. When a person's in the bathroom getting dressed all alone, you with me? Huh? The Prophet ﷺ loved to start with the right side. When a person gets dressed in the bathroom and there's nobody in there, but Allah sees him or her, right? Or Allah can't see us when we're in the bathroom. Huh? Tayyib, Allah sees us everywhere. So Allah sees us in the bathroom, we're on our own, we're by ourselves. Do we start with our right side when we get dressed in the bathroom? When there's nobody looking? Huh? Something like that. Yeah, of course we should. That's not a question of should we, do we? Do we do something like that when there's nobody in sight to see, but we know Allah Jalla wa Ala sees, and the reward in starting with the right is in following the Prophet ﷺ. So by starting with the right side, we're following the messenger in that. So are we going for that reward, knowing that Allah is watching even when I'm in the bathroom and nobody is there to see it? Nobody's there. But I know Allah sees me. And I know that that's the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to start with the right side even when getting dressed. So at that point, that we use that hadith, or we use that the name Al-Basir, that Allah is all seeing everywhere, and everything I do, Allah sees me. Therefore, we still try to practice and implement the sunnah even when nobody is watching. طيب. He says number 3, التأمل في سيرة النبي الكريم عليه الصلاة والسلام. The third thing is reflecting on the biography, the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That will increase a person's faith. Reflecting on the life of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. But how does that increase a person's faith? If a person, for example, reads the biography, the seerah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, how is that going to increase their faith?
Well, I know the first time I ever read it, like, by permission of Allah was a benefit for me, because it was the first time I realized everything that he went through to establish this deen, and being aware that he had a choice to not do it, and he chose to do it. And it was, and when I read it, it was like, man, like he went through all this, and like nowadays we just like throw the religion away sometimes. Like, he couldn't have did all this for nothing. So that really helped me the first time I ever read it.
Alhamdulillah. Reading those struggles.
He was the best of creation. So that's a guide in itself on how we're supposed to live our life.
Jade. So if a person reads, for example, they read something from the seerah, and they read the struggle or the hardship that the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba had to go through, especially in the beginning, then it does what? It's natural. It's a natural feeling. How they had to go through all of that. It's only natural to look at that and then to look at our situation now, right? And say, really much, we got it easy, right? For a lot of things, we got it a lot easier. It's only natural. And it naturally pushes you. It's a natural encouragement to want to do more. Just reading a story that is an encouragement. We know that the statement of the Prophet ﷺ is true. We know that those are hadith, authentic hadith, they're true. These are not just stories that are made up. This is how the religion was preserved. We read those hadith that come in the seerah and those stories that come in the seerah, and read especially the one like in Shiqaq al-Sadr, when his chest was split open and the two angels came and opened his chest and washed his chest with Zamzam, and removed a piece of... We read those stories and we know that this is real, and the Sahaba said that they saw the mark of the split. They saw it there. We know this is real. This is not just, folk tales and stuff that they're making up. This is real. It increases the iman. It strengthens a person's faith, knowing that, alhamdulillah, it gives you certainty. It gives a person certainty that this religion is true, and that we have chains and authentic hadith that go back to trace it. It's traceable. It's no secret information floating around, but it's traceable, documented. He says, reading the seerah. التأمل في سيرة النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام وهديه وآداب. Reading about his manners, how he dealt with people. Increases a person's faith, because when we read these things, it's only natural. Normally, a person thinks about, what would I do? Right? And then you say, subhanAllah, I got to get better. I need to do something. right? وَأَخْلَاقِهِ, his adab, how he carried himself, how he was in the house, how he was with his wives, how he dealt with the children. All of those things. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that his adab was the Quran. When they asked her, how was he? His adab was the Quran. And then they used to ask Aisha, how was he in the house? He would help out around the house. Brother said that he would help out in the house. He would help out, alayhi salatu wasalam. And when it's time for the adhan, he would leave and go pray Jama'ah. But he would help out in the house. Reading those things, a man, a person can't help. Reading how he dealt with his wives. A woman can't help but to look at herself and say, Dad, what am I doing? It's natural. It's a natural thing. He says, reading all these things, وَمَعَامَلَاتِهِ, and how he did his business. When he would do trade, business with people. He would take and hold things for people, and people would trust him to hold things. It's only natural that we look at our own selves and try to compare and weigh in. How close am I to this? How close am I to practicing the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and reading the fights and the wars that they went through, and how they were tortured, and how they were outnumbered when they went to fight, and how people close to them turned on them. A lot of times people can relate to that because a lot of people take shahada, become Muslim, and a lot of their families, tell them they don't want to deal with them. So a lot of people can relate to that, especially the sisters, because the sisters they cover up. So that scarf means a whole lot. That scarf represents a whole lot that our sisters sometimes don't know. That scarf represents more than just covering your hair.
When you say reflecting upon his life and things like that, would that be included with like the companions? Would their lives be included in that? Would it be like
Jade,
inclusive?
That's a good question. And actually, that's number 5. That is number 5. That's a separate one in its own, reflecting on the seerah. But here he's talking about starting. There's nothing wrong with that. But before we start reading about Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali, we got to go and know who they learned from. The Prophet ﷺ. So he mentioned the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ before he mentioned the seerah, the biography of the lives of the companions. So first learning the life about the life of the Prophet ﷺ. And he says here, those battles he went through, how he would give gifts, his giving of gifts, that sunnah, to give gifts. He said all of these things are things that will increase iman, a person's faith. And the point was that the women, they can't hide. When they take shahada, they can't hide. The scarf you can't hide a scarf, right? At the least, when a woman puts a scarf on her head, a khimar, she can't hide that when she goes home. Where a man, he might go home and look the same way he left. But the woman can't hide the khimar, so they deal with a whole lot more pressure. A whole lot more pressure. Not just home, outside. Now everywhere she goes, she has a scarf on. Where a man, you might not be able to tell the difference from yesterday and today. If he wasn't Muslim yesterday and he's Muslim today, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. The woman, she has to put the khimar on. If she puts the hijab on, the abaya, whatever she wears, it's a lot of pressure. It's a whole lot of pressure. And that's why it's important for the men, and not just the men, the whole community, to be active in having things for the women. Active and also for the women, teaching the women and letting the women understand that it's not Islam for everybody. It's not something that's done individually. Islam is not practiced individually. Every individual has to practice Islam, but it's a community effort. It makes it easier. Just like Ramadan. It's easy to fast when everybody's fasting. Right? It's easy. It's a lot easier to fast when everybody's fasting. But when you got to make days up from Ramadan, and nobody's fasting, you got to make those days up, it's a lot more. Brother, see, I'm going to just wait until the winter time when the days are shorter. It's a little more difficult. But when everybody's fasting, it's easier. Right? So when we make those areas where the women can come and they can see other women dealing with the same situations, it lightens the burden. It lightens the burden. So he says, dealing with all of that and seeing how Prophet ﷺ dealt with that. All those things should increase a person's faith. He said, number 4, ma'rifatu mahasin ad-din al-Islami. Knowing the beauty of the religion. Knowing the fact that Islam covers everything. That there has been no stone left unturned, as they say. When a person knows this, you sit back and you say, SubhanAllah, this is perfect. There's nothing left out. And it makes you know it has to be from the Lord of the worlds.
Is that a hadith? I'm not sure if somebody mentioned it, if I read it somewhere, but I think it was a Jewish man. He was talking to a believer, and he said your prophet has taught you everything, even how to use a bathroom.
Yeah, it's in the hadith. That even the Jews during the time of the Prophet they knew that Islam covered everything. And one time we were in class in Miraf, inheritance class. And I remember thinking that because it was a situation where, you know, the inheritance, when a person dies, who gets what, right? The portioning of who gets what from the family for those people who can inherit. Because everybody doesn't inherit in the family, that's a whole nother issue. But for the people who can inherit, that it was an issue one time of what if the child is born and you're not really clear on the gender? You know, we got boys and girls. Like if a child is born and the gender's not clear, and I was sitting there thinking, because it's a whole process how to figure it out. They didn't it's not just left like, just pick one and go. No, everything is in line, in order. The unborn baby, how much is the unborn baby? Boy or girl? It's a whole process. I said, SubhanAllah, Islam is perfect. Nobody will be oppressed. Everybody will get their haqq, their right. The child is gonna, even if the child, they don't know what the gender is. It's a way to figure it out. You want to know the way to figure it out? Or say the child is born with 2 parts, 2 private parts. SubhanAllah. It's real. That child is born with 2 private. Sometimes that they check where does the urine come from? Which part does the urine come from? Right? It's possible a baby may be born with 2 private areas, right? Like, which part does the urine come out of? What if it comes out of both? It comes out of both. It's not over. Like, which one does it come out of first? It comes out at the same time. Which one does it come out of harder with more thrust? I like one. I like one. That nothing is left just like everything is. Alhamdulillah. He says, knowing these type of things, the beauty of Islam and how Islam is perfect, then this is something that a person reflects and says, SubhanAllah, this deen is perfect. My brother said, this deen is all that. The deen is perfect. There's nothing left that we just have to guess. Everything has been laid out. And that was just an inheritance. Just to go through that and figure out, well, I had no idea, how would you figure that out? If they would actually go and look and see, okay. Shows the precision and how serious, and that the point is that nobody will be oppressed. Everybody will get what they're entitled to. Or even in the chapter of punishments, that if a person, for example, they transgress another person and cut a person's finger off, right? Like they go to court and he wants what? He cut his finger off, so he wants his finger cut off, right? That they won't cut the finger off if whatever punishment that the person's going to get in return, it has to be equal to the thing that the first person got. So for example, if he did something and they had to cut his pinky finger off, like, number one, they have to look, okay, can we just go cut his pinky finger off? It all depends. if cutting the pinky finger off of the second person who caused the problem, if that's going to lead to a bigger problem in the hand, then you can't cut it off. You need to get exactly what he did to this one, you have to do to this one. If it's going to go over, then no, they're not going to do it. They're not going to punish him with that. There might be another punishment, but not with that. You with me? If they break his arm, they're fighting, he breaks his arm, hits him with a bat, breaks his arm. He wants to break his arm. But how can you crush the arm in the same exact spot with the same exact result damage that the first person had? It doesn't mean it's no punishment, but it can't be that punishment because we can't confirm. There's no way to be sure that he's going to get the exact result. I said, no, we're not going to do that. To keep everything fair. If we're going to crush his arm, we have to crush it the same way he crushed his. Get the same result. If that can't happen, then we have to find something else to do. There's another alternative. But those things show that Islam is perfect. Perfect. Nobody's going to be oppressed. Everybody will get exactly what they deserve. طيب. It says, fifth, قراءة السير السلف الصالح. Reading the biographies of the Salaf, which start with, as he said, قراءة السير السلف الصالح كسيرة أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وسائر الصحابة وسيرة التابعين والأئمة قراءة تأمل وتدبر واتعاظ مما يزيد الإيمان. Reading the biographies of the Sahaba, the companions, and the Tabi'een, those who came after the companions, and the Imams of the past. Reading and reflecting on the stories and taking the benefit from those stories. This is something that increases a person's faith also. Because when we read those stories, and we spoke about that last week, when we read the statements of the Salaf, you find, in general, the mentality. Sometimes you read these stories and you think, you have to be at a certain level to even think like that, right? And it's only natural to look at yourself and say, I'm not there. I'm way off. Or in general, if we did that during this time, people would call us this, right? And these may be Sahaba, right? But if you look at how Allah raised them and the status that the Muslims had in that time, if you look at their mentality, how they acted, how they worshipped, how they behaved, and look at their status in the world during that time when they were behaving like that. And look at when you remove those things in the status of the Muslims in the world, when you remove those things. So he says, reading their biography, starting with the Sahaba, and then the Tabi'een, those that came after them, and then the Imams of the Salaf after that. And not just reading through them and taking benefit from them. Reading those stories, the trials they went through, the hardships, how serious they were. He said these things will increase a person's iman. And this is from one of those books that we spoke about last week, where they took a bunch of narrations and they compiled them into one book. And there's different chapters. There's a lot of different sections or different title heads that they put them under. Because some of these books are like 10 volumes long. Some are 6 volumes, 2 volumes long. So they basically, he took and he gathered, for example, we're going to read some from Al-Amal Bil-Ilm. The narrations or the statements dealing with acting on your knowledge that you have. As we're sitting here in a class like this, halaqah, that we learn something, we have to act on it. Now, what does that mean? Because what we'll do is, right, some of us, we'll leave out of here, not nobody specific, but in general, not y'all, but in general, we'll leave out. My brother will use some of the stuff from the class outside in the street. We'll use it, right? Which is khair, it's good. That's what we're supposed to do. And the other brother said, come on now, you overboard with that. Oh, you trying to use your stuff? Yeah, I'm trying to use my stuff. Huh? You trying to use your stuff on me from the class? Right? Something like that. Right? But when you look at their mentality of implementing the action, using the knowledge to implement it. when you see how they looked at it, it changes your outlook on it. Your view on it is a little different now. Your view on people who talk like that becomes a little different. You say, well, I don't know. Where you get that from? Who talks like that? Because the people that we say we love, they don't talk like that. So there's a narration here عن أبي درداء رضي الله عنه قال إن أخوف ما أخاف إذا وقفت على الحساب أن يقال لي قد علمت فماذا عملت فيما علمت. He said that Abu Darda رضي الله عنه, he said the thing that I fear the most, he said the thing that I fear the most when I stand before Allah to be judged is that it will be said to me, you learned. You sat and you learned. So what did you do with the information that you learned? Thus, he said, this is the akhwaf ma akhaf. He said, this is the biggest fear that I have when I stand before Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah, is that I will be asked, what did you do with the knowledge that you learned? Simple like that. That type of mentality puts you in a different bracket. Your mentality is somewhere else. It's a little different. That means you move different. طيب عن سليم العامري قال سمعت حذيفة يقول بحسب المرء من العلم أن يخشى الله. He said that Hudhayfa said رضي الله عنه, that a person will fear Allah according to their knowledge, according to how much knowledge they have. Which shows everybody's not on the same level. So when somebody's out of pocket, that it's a way to deal with them. That we can't just assume that people know what we know. We can't assume people know the basics. We can't assume people are supposed to know that because they look like they know it. Or they go to a masjid that should know it. Or they dress like you would think they know it. Right? That's an assumption that a person only knows. Everybody's different. Everybody's on different levels. So their level may dictate. Their level dictates what they know and what they don't know. عن سفيان الثوري رحمه الله قال ما بلغني عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حديث قط إلا عملت به ولو مرة. He says, Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah, he said, and I heard this before, and it's wrong. It's a wrong type of, that people call people super religious when they try to do stuff, like when they try to implement. And I've heard brothers, they say that, like, he like sometimes the imam of the masjid, imam like snapped out on me. He said, I had to break down. He told, listen, man, I just read the hadith. I was just trying to use it. I wasn't trying to cause any problems. I just read the hadith yesterday. I came here. What I read in the hadith was the same situation when I came here to this masjid. I was just trying to use what I read in the hadith. No, I wasn't trying to start no trouble. All right? Sufyan rahimahullah, he said, Ma balagani. He said, there's no hadith that reached me from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam except that I used it at least one time. He said, I never came across a hadith except that I used it at least once. Not just reading a bunch of yarns that we don't even know. Every hadith I came across from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I used that. Whatever was in that hadith, I tried to use it at least once. Walau marra. I might not use it every day, but low marra, at least one time. And a statement like that is also on Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. It says, عن إبراهيم ابن إسحاق الحربي قال ينبغي للرجل إذا سمع شيئا من أدب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن يتمسك به. He said that it's for a man that when he hears something from the adab, from the behavior and the akhlaq of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, when a man hears something from how the Prophet ﷺ used to carry himself, he said what is upon us is to hold on tight to that, يتمسك به. Try to use it. That we should try to use this stuff, that we're not just gathering information for the sake of gathering information. عن سفيان بن عيينة قال ليس العالم الذي يعرف الخير والشر إلا العالم الذي يعرف الخير فيتبعه ويعرف الشر فيجتنبه. He said the knowledgeable person, the person with ilm, is not the one who knows the khair and the shar. Not the one who just knows what's good and what's bad. The one who knows the khair and the shar, the evil. They know the good and they know the evil. They know all this stuff. He said, this is not the one with the ilm. This is not the one with knowledge. Right? But these athar, these are not like proofs in Islam. It's not a proof. But these narrations give you an idea of where their mentality was. How did they look at things? It's not to say you can take this statement of Sufyan ibn Uyayna and use it on somebody. Say, all right, you don't have any knowledge because you don't do this. But the mentality was, right? These are not dalil, these statements. But the mentality was, a person, because they have information, doesn't make them knowledgeable, not to them. He said, what makes them knowledgeable is that they know the khair, they know what's good, and they implement it, they follow it. And they know the evil, so they stay away from it. That's a alim, that's a scholar, that's a person's knowledge. That they know it and they use it. They know that they're supposed to stay away from it, so they stay away from it. عن أبي عاصم قال من طلب الحديث فقد طلب أعلى الأمور فيجب أن يكون خير الناس. He said, and this shows that it's supposed to affect the way we behave. You learn something, it's supposed to affect our behavior. We're supposed to change. Oh, you changing now. You sitting in class, so you trying to change on everybody now. Right? You're supposed to change. It's supposed to change. It's ilm is supposed to change. Oh, now you don't do this no more? When you stop doing that? When I learned it was wrong. Right? It's from the shaitan. It's deception from the shaitan to try to pull people back to disobeying Allah. Right? He said, whoever seeks hadith, whoever seeks to learn hadith, learn the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, and they have sought out to learn one of the greatest things that you can learn. Right? The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He says, so when a person does that, it's supposed to change him. He says, فَيَجِبُ أَنْ يَكُونَ خَيْرَ النَّاسِ. So it's obligatory that that person is to be from the best of the people. To behave and carry themselves like the best of the people. Not to be like everybody who doesn't know that information, because the one who learns is not like the one who doesn't learn. The one who knows is not like the one who doesn't know. It's two different levels. So it's supposed to affect us and change the way we carry ourselves. And even if people don't like it, that's just the reality. That's how it goes. That you don't find the ulama walking around and carrying themselves like, not that they're not regular people, but you don't find them carrying themselves like people who don't have knowledge. Just the same way you don't find, even right here, you don't find people with positions in the city government. You don't find people with positions carrying themselves out on the street in the same way that a regular person who's not a government official, you don't find it. It's a position, it's a status. Allah put the people of knowledge on a certain status, a certain level in Islam, and they have to carry themselves like that. So if a person goes to learn, then they have entered into another level. It's another category. And that category obligates that a person carry himself a certain way. And they understood this. And that's why he says, فَيَجِبُ أَنْ يَكُونَ خَيْرَ النَّاسِ. So a person has to be from the best of the people if they go to learn. They go to seek hadith, learn the statements of the Prophet ﷺ. You got to change. You got to be a better person. It says, عن Malik. I'm sorry. The last one, it says, قال الأوزاعي. Ask Allah Jalla wa Ala, protect us from this, but Imam al-Awza'i rahimahullah, and reading something like this, you can't help but to look at our situation. قال الأوزاعي رحمه الله إذا أراد الله بقوم شرا فتح عليهم الجدل ومنعهم العمل. That Imam al-Awza'i, he said, if Allah wants evil for a people, if he wants to disgrace a people, right? فَتَحَ عَلَيْهِمْ الْجَدَلِ. Then he opens up the doors of argumentation for them, arguing and disagreeing. وَمَنَعَهُمْ الْعَمَلِ. and he prevents them from action. Arguing, a bunch of arguing, tons of arguing, and very little action. Allahu musta'an. He said this is a sign, Imam al-Awza'i. He said this is a sign that Allah doesn't want good for these people. Allah forgive us and protect us. I mean, Allahu A'lam, but it was seen, this is just my opinion. Brothers calling to himself. This is my opinion. We all sitting here, it would seem that we're very close to something like this. In this city, arguing, there's tons of arguing, and there's very little being done. There's something, this thing being done, but compared to the arguing, it's very little. Allah musta'an. It's a statement of Imam al-Awza'i, rahimahullah. When you read something like that, you can only help but look at yourself and, all right, where do I fall in this? And here it says, qawm, for people. So it says if Allah doesn't want good or wants evil for people, it's not one person, for people, that he opens up the doors of argumentation and disagreement, and he prevents them from action. وَمَنَعُهُمْ الْعَمَلِ. And a bunch of arguing and disagreeing about everything's argument. Everything's argument. And very little action. That's just one chapter, and that was just a couple selected from the chapter of Al-Amal Bil-Ilm. And they were and there was a whole lot more. It's a whole lot of them. There's another chapter, Al-Hadr min al-Fatwa. It's a bunch of them, but they gather them together. And when you read these, as-salat wa-ikthar minha, the salat, the prayer, and how much they would pray, how serious they were about praying extra rak'ah and stuff like that. And when you read these, it can only increase a person in iman, and that's what they brought for number 6. The fifth reason for increasing a person's iman would be qira'at as-sir as-salaf as-salih, reading the biographies and the lives of the starting with the Sahaba, the Tabi'in, and the Imams that came after them. And we'll stop there till next week, inshallah ta'ala. Any questions?
From the beginning, just a question. When people, I mean, we know our belief is that iman increases, decreases. Increases with obedience to Allah, decreases with obedience to shaitan, right? So what would be the benefit of people saying that iman doesn't increase and decrease?
Jade, that's a big problem. And that's how you got one of the first groups of innovation.
I'm saying, like, what would be the benefit of them saying that?
The benefit of them saying that is, and that's a statement of the group, the Murji'ah. Real Ahlul Bidah. Not brothers that just, that when you say iman when we say iman increases with obedience, and it decreases when we disobey Allah. So when we do something from obedience, our iman gets stronger. When we disobey Allah, our iman gets weaker. If a person comes and say, iman is at one level, it doesn't increase and decrease. And that means what? It doesn't matter if I obey Allah or not. I can do anything and my iman is the same. I'm always going to be a Muslim. I'm always a believer, so it don't really matter. Allah knows what's in my heart. So I can go outside and disobey Allah and I'm cool. It's not going to affect my iman. That's the benefit for them. You with me? And Shaykh Abdul Aziz Al-Raji said when they did that, the Murji'ah, that opened up the door for the fusaq, for the disobedient people. That was like a pass for them. They had the pass, they had the green light now that they can disobey Allah. Why? Because iman to them, to the Murji'ah, to them, faith doesn't increase and decrease. It's at one level. So since it's at one level, it doesn't make a difference if I pray or if I don't pray. It doesn't make a difference if I stay away from the haram or not. Whether I do something haram or not, my iman is always the same. So it just opens up the door for more disobedience. That's the benefit for them. Right? You with me? That would be the benefit. Well, not the benefit, but you know what I'm saying? When you say iman doesn't increase and decrease, that's what it does. It means and it's a group of people who say that. And they're on different levels. Some of them that you don't even, the closest to the Murji'ah is that they say that iman is a statement and it's in the heart. Some of them say that actions aren't from iman. We know that iman is a statement with the tongue, something you say with your tongue. You have to believe it in your heart, and you have to do actions. You have to do actions too. Ahl Sunnah, people of the Sunnah, the actions are from Iman. But there are a group of people, the Murji'ah, they say that actions are not from Iman. That's a problem. What does that mean? That means an action like actions, meaning I don't have to really do that. And I'm still a believer. Why? Because I said it with my tongue, and it's in my heart. But actions, it'd be good if you did it. To them, they will say, it's good if you do that, but you don't have to do it. That's a whole problem. That's a whole problem.
But if it's in your heart, then it will show in your actions.
It would. But to them, actions are like, let's say that's the icing on the cake to them. It's not from Iman. It's not from Iman. It doesn't make up Iman. They'll say Iman is only two parts. The actions that y'all saying, if you do that, that's good, but it's not going to affect the person's Iman or not.
In conjunction with that, I wanted to ask now today, if a person believes like that, but they don't outright, they're not a person of, I'll say intellect, but they have the beliefs of the merger, because this is super duper common. How a person says, you don't know what's in my heart,
Right.
and how a person say, it's 2018, people still arguing about what they can wear,
Right.
as far as females. And would that fall into the Murji'ah, even though they're people of not knowledge and like they're just regular people, but they have that belief?
Listen, the belief is the belief. Am I going to say this person's a murji? I'm not going to label this person as this, but they might be ignorant and don't know. But that's the importance of learning and spreading the knowledge that you can't just walk around saying, Allah knows what's in my heart. We already know that. Nobody, who doesn't agree with that? Like, everybody knows that. Allah knows him. We know Allah is the all-knower, al-alim. But it's more than that. What do you mean it's more than that? Allah described the salat in the Quran as being iman. Right? Iman is from actions. All the texts that we have that show that iman includes action. Does that mean we're going to call this person this? No, you might have to sit this person down and explain to him, listen, when you say that, that means this, which equals this, which is incorrect. You might have to sit them down and talk to them. But a lot of people think that, they can say it's in my heart and that's enough. And they don't have to do it. What it does is it cuts off the obligation of having to do something, having to show it in your actions, which for them the benefit would be is I don't have to do that. Therefore, you do that, that's cool, but it's not necessary for me to do that, which is incorrect. But to answer your question, that don't mean you have to start labeling people. Unless some people might just, especially if they're ignorant. If they don't know, then we got to teach them.
Definitely, but what I'm saying is that's really like their belief though. They don't believe like how you said. They got to think now, and it's like, I'm Muslim, I don't care what you say, it ain't no criteria, I'm Salafi, I'm this. It doesn't matter what you say, that's what I am. I don't have to follow what you're saying, and you understand, it's like there's no criteria, and they really believe that.
Oh, that's going to be a problem. Yom Kippur, that's going to be a problem. I mean, the best thing we could do is talk to people. If we can't get through to them, we might want to get somebody else that might have a little more edge, or something they might accept from them to talk to them.
What's the statement from Umar radiallahu anhu when he mentioned that we judge people according to their actions, by the Quran. So, when their actions are consistent with the Quran, then, we judge them upon that, and whatever they do is hidden. That's between them and the law.
Exactly. We judge people on the zahir, what's apparent to us. And the reality is, it's ignorant people now, and it's always been ignorant people walking around. It's always been people of knowledge, and always been people that are ignorant. There's always been people that believe that the way of Ahl Sunnah, and always been people that went against the belief of Ahl Sunnah. It's always been like that. This time that we're in now is no different. It might be, some things might be increased, but there's always been people ignorant talking. It's always been like that.
Wouldn't that be why it's obligatory upon us to seek knowledge? Like you said, if you knew better, you would do better.
Yes, you know better, you do better. You keep people around you that's going to encourage you to do better. That's the importance of building and creating yourself an environment that's conducive, especially for the type of area we live in. You got to create and put yourself in an environment that's conducive to be able to stay away from things and to be able to be closer to things. If you want to be closer to certain people, certain circles. You got to put yourself in a position to do that. If you don't want to be around certain people, then you don't go to those places. And it's really big creating your own environment.
Like the brother was saying over there, he was saying, people would say, you know, they Muslim, they Salafi, this and that, but they don't pray. Because they feel as though, like he was talking about, you know, Allah knows what's in my heart.
Right.
So, his statements are saying that if you don't pray, you're not Muslim.
Right.
I mean, so how do you... I mean, because you got people around here doing that, like the brother was saying.
if you don't pray, man,
he was saying that over there, like, you know, you got people around here going around saying, you know what's in my heart, so I don't have to, you know, and stuff like that.
I mean, you got general and you got specific. Generally, people have to be taught. Now, you're saying they don't want to learn, then, I mean, you know, if they don't want to learn, they don't want to listen to nobody, then that's on them. They can call themselves whatever they want to call themselves. That's on them. Islam is not like some type of renegade. Islam has rules. There are rules that have to be followed. A person don't want to follow their rules, they can call themselves whatever they want to call themselves. Just like, you know, there's all kinds of people call themselves Muslims. They don't mean they Muslim.
Nah,
It's a bunch of them.
If you consider it like 10 locations of Islam,
Yeah,
how many people indulge in those things?
it's a lot.
So,
Now, I mean, if you know people personally, then you go to people, you talk to them, listen, this is this, you explain it to them. If they don't want to hear from you, try to find somebody that's going to be able to get through to them. That's what needs to be done. If a person don't want to hear from it, they're not taking anybody, like, what are we supposed to do? You can't tie a person down and make them learn. You can't tie a person down and make them believe something. If they say they're Muslim, well, listen, this is what we're supposed to be doing. What you're saying is way off, and this is why. And you bring as much to them that you can bring to them. If they don't want to hear from you, you get somebody. If they don't want to hear from anybody, what can we do, really? Not praying? I mean, I don't care what you call yourself. Salah is from the pillars of Islam. That's one of the that's the pillar that the Sahaba would consider, based on the hadith, that the one who doesn't pray is not even Muslim. They're going to come and say after that, how you going to say that? Say, okay, you don't pray, man. You know the person who doesn't pray is not a Muslim. You can't be Muslim. You call me a kafir? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying to you is, according to the Prophet ﷺ, the one who doesn't pray is not Muslim. According to the hadith. We have hadith. We're Muslims. The hadith, for the one who doesn't pray, they're not Muslim. So you can't just walk around saying what's in your heart. Now, if they don't want to listen after that, say he ain't Muslim, no, I'm not saying not Muslim. You say, I do, because you're going to say, I do pray. You don't got to see me pray. You got to see me pray. It's going to be an argument. The thing is, we bring them through everything that we can bring them. It's possible they pray in the house when we don't see it. It's possible. But one thing's for sure. If they're saying they're Muslim and you might see them pray every now and then, they pray, we have no way of gauging if a person prays every day in their houses or not, behind closed doors. If a person comes out and say, I don't even pray no more, that's I would not protect us all. That's something different. As far as general people don't really pray like that, then they come, they pray sometimes, they don't pray, they don't. Like generally, we got to let them know how serious the prayer is to the Muslim. And that if a person's not praying intentionally, that you can't be a Muslim and not pray. You don't have the option of, I don't think I'm going to pray this week. Today I'm cool. We don't have that option. It's an obligation. Once we bring them all of that, really, that doesn't say we stop dealing with them. But we bring them what we bring them and we remind them. And that's it. We just base, as he said, on what's apparent. When they stand before Allah, all of us, when everybody stands before Allah, then that's a different situation. But us, we only base or judge what's apparent to us.
With the salah, it has to be 5. It can't be, a person that may offer just 3 of the prayers a day. It has to be the 5 a day. You can't.
Yeah, but how can we judge if a person is praying all 5 though?
I mean, you can't judge that. But I'm saying, just like I don't. It's been a while since I listened to music, but even during the time when I was listening to music, they'll say, "Oh, I don't offer the 5 salat today," but you have these type of people that
right.
They believe in Muslim, like I only pray a couple salats a day, but yeah, I'm still Muslim. With these prayers, there had to be 5.
You're ignorant, yeah. I mean, people are ignorant. I mean, that's what we gotta understand. If we think about not here. If you go to any class anywhere, it's rare that you find based on the number of Muslims in the city, how many classes are really like jam-packed outside of lectures? Most knowledge is transferred through like personal talkings, personal gatherings, you know what I'm saying? Internet, text message, little stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? That's the importance of brotherhood and talking to people and having that relationship that you can talk to people. I can talk to this brother. Oh, I don't know him. You know him. Or you got to want good for people. Now, there's plenty of people ignorant. People are ignorant. They don't know. They think it's okay. They think that's okay. And when you have people of status who okay it, people assume, oh, well, if he didn't say it, must be all right. If he's saying it, must be, it must be good.
And the second point, when you were saying knowing Allah's names and attributes, you brought a verse 110, and I didn't catch the source.
110?
Yeah. It was
Or 124?
It was 124?
Oh, I'm sorry, 110, Al-Isra. Ignorance, and ignorance comes under the chapter of things that decrease a person's faith. Things that decrease a person's faith is being ignorant, not knowing.
Isn't it, not seeking knowledge? That's like one of the sin occasions. The person that I think they differentiate between the person that just completely leaves it off from the person that's just lazy with regards to it.
Not learning?
Yeah. Not seeking knowledge. That's one of the, that's actually in the sin occasion. That's the 10th.
Not seeking knowledge of what?
Of your deen, of religion.
Al-i'rad, maybe al-i'rad. Al-i'rad. You gotta be specific, a little more specific than that. Like a person will have to learn, for example, some things is not obligatory to know. Like, write this instance. Some things, the things that are obligatory to know. Things that you're gonna use every day, like, in order to make sure that you can be a Muslim. You with me? Shahada, who is Allah? Those things, the Shahada. Knowing those basic things that we carry us through the day. Knowing how to make wudu, how to pray. Things that are obligatory to know. Things like, for example, inheritance. Everybody doesn't have to study inheritance. You know what I'm saying? So if a person didn't study something like that, we're not going to use that.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, some things are personal obligation. I mean, that comes under the 10 occasions. That's the last one.
That's the importance of knowledge, man. I'm with you.
I mean, I'm reading it now, but inshallah, when I get to that part,
Knowledge. That's the importance of these sittings, not just these and sittings that other durus going on. That we have to. They said Imam Ahmed rahimahullah, when Imam Ahmed, and this type of stuff to show you, when Imam Ahmed rahimahullah would give classes, 5,000 people would come to the class. No microphone. 5,000 people. Out of those 5,000 people, only 450 people were writing. I'm sorry, only 500 people were writing, actually there for the durus, taking notes and stuff. The other 4,500, they said, came just to benefit from his adab. Just to benefit from how he behaved, how he carried himself. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. They went to benefit from his behavior, not from the hadith and the information he was given. They just wanted to benefit from how he was carrying himself, how he behaved. When we read that kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? What are we doing? I'm no Imam Ahmed or nothing like that. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, the mentality is a different mentality. The mentality that we talking about now is a mentality of ignorant people. I can do what I want. Don't judge me. Oh, that's ignorant. That's ignorant talk. That's ignorant talk. Internet talk. It's ignorant. And there's always been people that are ignorant. The problem is when we give an ear to people who are ignorant. He's ignorant. He don't know what he's talking about. She doesn't know what he's talking about. Why are we even entertaining them? They need help. They need help. And sometimes based on the situation we dealing with. It's a sensitive situation. We got to deal with people in a way that, we have to be strategic. Because we know everybody wants to argue. Everybody's right. So now we already know it's going to be an argument if I say something. So now I just got to figure out how should I say it. Because I already know it's going to be an argument. He's not going to take it. So I just want to make sure, I want to fulfill my obligation and make sure I say something, but I want them to accept it. So we got to be strategic. If we know something, we know somebody's doing something wrong.
The opposite of that, being ignorant in that regard, and what you was talking about earlier was how Sufyan al-Thawri said, rahimahullah, if he read something from the hadith, he used it.
Right.
You have another type of ignorance. You got, excuse my apologies. Where a person learns a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And now, instead of dealing with Islam in a practical way, they only spouting hadith and ayat. But it's nothing that's practical. It's like, you asking them something or you going to them with a legitimate problem, and they can't address it because the messenger went also they said, but it's nothing really that you can use.
Right.
Because they're using Islam like a battering ram.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
So what we do in a situation like that when you're dealing with those kinds of people?
You mean they know, but they don't know how to implement it?
Not even that. It's
they don't know how to. I mean, you can know something. Like we all know a hadith, but that doesn't necessarily mean we understand them. Mm-hmm. What do you extract? What's the benefit from the hadith? What does this hadith allow me to do, and what does it prevent me from doing? The extraction from the hadith that's fiqh. Everybody that memorizes something doesn't mean they understand it. There's people who memorize the Quran, hafiz, lead the Salah Ramadan, but he might not understand anything that he's reading. But he does know the ayah goes like this with this harakah, right? That doesn't mean he understands it. Same thing with hadith. He could have memorized 40 hadith, Arba'in an-Nawawi, from beginning to end. Mutqin, he's hifz, memorized perfect. But if you ask him what does this word mean, he might not know. What comes from this hadith? Does this mean this is halal? I don't know what that means. They might not know. So because they have information doesn't mean that they are the person to be asking a question to. Right? Now, if you wanted to ask them about memorizing, then that might be the thing that they're good at. The problem is if I'm that person and I memorized it, right? And I know that I don't understand it, but you don't know I don't understand it. Like if you come and ask me a question and I have to say, I don't know. But that's a whole nother problem that we have, that we don't want to say, la adri. We don't want to say, I don't know. We're scared to say, I don't know. We're scared to look like, like that's going to make us lower in the eyes of somebody. When we're not supposed to talk about Allah's religion without knowledge. And we have athar the salaf when they would say, I don't know, la adri. And even in here, it's a whole chapter called al-hadr min al-fatwa. Being cautious of giving answers and rulings on stuff. And how they said sometimes somebody will come ask a Sahaba a question and they would pass it around to the next person until, for example, I don't know, ask him. He would say, I don't know, ask him. He would say, I don't know, ask him. I don't know, until it came back around to me. Because nobody wanted to answer the question. Now, and these are Sahaba. Now, if I come ask him a question, he jumps in it. Oh no, that's just how it is. That's the reality, right? I wasn't even talking to you, right? But I mean, when you look and compare, that's just the reality. That's the reality. They would pass it around. Imam Malik said, I didn't teach until I think 40 scholars gave me the okay, or 70. All this kind of stuff. It's like when we have to use that stuff. There's always going to be people that memorize, but that doesn't necessitate that they are knowledgeable of what they memorize. It doesn't necessitate that they're a sheikh in the sense of understanding. They might be a sheikh of Quran, a sheikh of Qira'ah. They can read the Quran good. They memorize. They might be a sheikh in that sense. But they might not be a sheikh in the sense of understanding and giving you the information, the benefit from the Quran. And that goes same thing for hadith. And I can always go, because there was a brother, he was in my class, he was, mashallah, his Quran was It was real, mashallah. His memory was good, his pronunciation was good, but he didn't understand. He had a real tough time learning Arabic. He didn't understand it. And I used to ask him sometimes when we were in the Arabic program, he used to ask me questions. I'd be like, you don't know that word? Because it was amazing. Like, he memorized it. He could wake up out of his sleep, and he knew the Quran. But he didn't know the Arabic word. So I asked him, I said, you don't know that word? He said, no. I said, I thought you would kind of know that. It comes in the Quran a lot. It would be small things. I said, that word is like often in the Quran. He said, I know words like this one, this one, this one, like small stuff, but most of it I don't understand. But he knows the Quran. That shows memorization is one thing, fahm, understanding, is another thing. And when we say understanding, I don't mean the translation of the words from Arabic to English. That's not understanding. Understanding is, what's the benefit of this ayat? What does this ayat prove? What does this hadith prove? What does it show me? What does it mean I can do? What does it mean I can't do? What does it mean it's prohibited to do? What does it mean it's better to do? Based on that ayat or hadith in front of me. That's the fahm, the fiqh of the hadith, or the fiqh of the tafsir of the ayat like that. Allah. Stop there. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.